Now, this lecture is an initiative by the, it is an initiative by the European Commission, the United Nations Development Programme, and top academic institutions in the world. And in this case, the University of Lagos. And I'm proud to let you know that we are making history as the first African university to be hosting this lecture series. So you're a part of history. But before I go further, I would like to honor a number of people that are seated with us today. The first person I would like to acknowledge is the presence of Mr. Adebisi Ade. Hello? Okay. The representatives of the HOD Economics Department. Next person is Mr. Kumi Azaya and Akoni Ismailiat, the representative of Unilag Communications Unit. Mr. Oladapo Emmanuel, representative of Unilag Son. Adejoko Adedamola. Mr. Adejoko Adedamola, a round of applause for him, please. El Hazan Latana, I believe I pronounced that properly, I'm sorry, is a representative of the UNDP. A round of applause for that, for him. Mr. Abu Rilwan, the expert from Faith Institute. A round of applause for him, please. Kende Adeboiga and Ambassador Solomon Chokwe, Human Rights Journalists Network. A round of applause for them, please. With us is also Professor Quadri Mariam, the HOD of the Political Science Department. And we also have Ms. Lara Rabiu, the CEO of Afara Initiative. A round of applause for Mr. Aliu Jamiu, too. And Odebumi Ramon, the Political Science Staff Advisor for the International Affairs Students Association. And finally, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Dele Ashiru, lecturer at the Department of Political Science. Now, this lecture, yes. So this is a lecture of top global thinkers, a discussed department in the European Union, countries, and beyond. The series Kapuscinski Lectures, also known as Cap Talks, is named after the Polish reporter and writer Ryszard Kapuscinski. And today's topic of discussion is titled Youth Engagement in African Economic Development, Harnessing the Potential of the Next Generation. And you're clearly in the right room because a large majority of us are the next generations. We are the next presidents, chairmen, local government councillors, and beyond. So a round of applause for yourself for being here. And right now, I will be welcoming Dr. Ferdinand Otto as he makes his welcome address. A round of applause as he makes his.
To add to what she said, we would like to make an addition. He is Professor Ferdinand Otto. Please put an hand together for him. The staff advisor for the International Affairs Students Association. Also, we have in our midst Dr. Olajide Bamidele from the Department of Political Science. And we have Mr. Kende Adegboyega from the Human Rights Journalists Network. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MC. Well, we invited so many people, but most of them are not present yet. So let me start by acknowledging our guest speaker today, Mrs. Lara Rabiu, the representative of UNDP, the representative of European Union, and our main host or sponsor for this program. How do you pronounce this? Kapuscinski. The head of Department Political Science, Professor Lara Rabiu, the immediate past chairman of ASO, our great union, Dr. Lara Rabiu. My colleagues, Dr. Oladide Damidele, the former president of ISA, Mr. Solomon Tokwe, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the members of the press, it is an honor to welcome you all to this epoch event, as it is the first public lecture to be organized under the auspices of this great association, the International Affairs Student Association. Since its inception, we are particularly grateful to God that this association is making progress with this public lecture today on youth engagement in African economic development, harnessing the potential of the next generation. Ladies and gentlemen, let me reflect on the journey of this association briefly. In 2013-2014 academic session, this association was established. It was envisioned to organize programs of this nature. It is not a coincidence that today event is taking place. International Students Affairs Association was conceived to be a platform for the students to fraternize and share knowledge among members and other global audience. Thank you. Other global on topical issues that are central to the advancement of international diplomacy. Last year, the association launched its maiden edition of the magazine called Diplomatic. The magazine provides the platform to contribute to debate on international issues. Through the General Assembly session, which holds every 2 weeks, issues are deliberated and resolutions are passed. The General Assembly session provides a platform for members to understand the workings of the United Nations. Today we have gathered to synthesize and renew our call for youth engagement in the development of society. Today's lecture aims to provide a resource for formulating and implementing policies that promote engagement, empowerment, and investment in young people in Africa. Africa is at a crossroad in its development effort. At this critical juncture, Its quest for development requires all hands on deck. This is by recognizing the role the youth will play in the development of the continent. In recent time, there is progressive discourse on African development path. People of Africa, including the youth, are gaining the conviction that they are the instruments of their own sustainable upliftment and are taking the initiative towards realizing their African's dream. Africa has the youngest population in the world, with 70% of sub-Saharan Africa under the age of 30. Such a high number of young people is an opportunity for the continent's growth, but only if these new generations are fully empowered to realize their best potential. It is especially important that young people are included in decision-making and given appropriate opportunities to contribute to the development of the continent. Having a young population brings many opportunities for development of the continent, opportunities for economic growth rather, and innovation. If these opportunities can be recognized and utilized, by sheer numbers alone, the choices, opportunities, and constraints of young people will continue to play a major role in shaping Africa's development. No doubt, young people have the creative potential which can be harnessed for the development of the continent. Unfortunately, they are left out in the developmental scheme. Involving them in politics, the society stands to benefit immensely as they bring ingenuity to bear in the economic growth through innovation. Africa is a continent full of hope and optimism. The continent offers tremendous hope of revival and rejuvenation. With growth becoming exhausted in Europe and the high-performing Asian economies slowing down, analysts looking to Africa for the next surge in economic growth. The continent is far from exhausting its incredible multifaceted potential. It is for this reason that we admonish the African leaders to engage the youth, create a space for them, and give them a seat at the table. Don't just offer this seat passively, but empower them to actually use it. Young people have the potential and they have collective power. With guidance, they can use their power for collective benefit of the society. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all warmly welcomed to the University of First Choice and Nation's Pride. At this juncture, I thank all our partners for this event for their generous support. The interest shown by you is an indication of the importance attached to this issue of youth involvement in the development of Africa. The African Union is very mindful of this, and it will have to make conscious effort to harness the potential endowed in African youth by nature. To our guest lecturer, who came all the way from the United States, we are eternally grateful for this honor done to us. We express our gratitude to our main sponsor, the European Union and United Nations Development Program, University of Lagos Management for supporting this initiative, the Department for International Partnership for its guidance throughout the planning process, to our Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences, who is not present today, also giving the association the support, and our amiable head of department, who is always there for the association. We thank you for your support and encouragement. For the International Affairs Students Association members, I urge flying. Today's will not be the end or the last, rather it is the beginning of taking the association to the next level. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Fed, for that address. A round of applause for him again as he makes his way to his seat. So we have heard it. If you are still interested after this conversation, because we can't just have this conversation and then go on our way and live our lives. If you want to continue this conversation and make real change, you can definitely join the International Affairs Students Association. I believe there's a representative that you can go ahead to meet, or you can go to the registration desk and make inquiries. The next person I would be addressing is Mr. Albert Stephen. He is the Vice President of One Data. A round of applause for him, please. It's a great time for me to mention that this event is proudly funded by the European Commission. A round of applause for the European Commission. That is why we are here. Now, I would like for us to please stand up as we recite the national anthem. Thank you very much. You can have your seat now. Our next address would be from a representative of the European Commission. Please, do we have that video?
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, I would like to extend my warm greetings from Abuja to all participants, especially UNILAG and UNDP officials and our keynote speaker, Madame Lara Rabiu. I would have loved to join you in person at UNILAG, where I had the honor to be hosted for a conference a few weeks ago, but unfortunately, previous commitments are keeping me away from Lagos. Richard Kapuscinski was a citizen of Poland, Europe, and the world. He was the communist-era Polish press agency's only correspondent in Africa during the decolonization times. Coming from the Soviet-dominated Poland and Europe divided into West and East by the Iron Curtain, he had unique understanding and sympathy for African nations' independence efforts. Between 1956 and 1981, he reported on 27 revolutions and coups, including on other continents, until he was fired because of his support for the pro-democracy movement in his native country. His many professional journeys resulted in an impressive collection of photos and books in which he brought to us not only the bare facts of these critical moments in history, but a deep understanding and compassion for the human struggle for a better life and freedom. You will find in his works, such as Another Day of Life of 1976 on the Anglo Civil War, The Emperor, 1983, about the downfall of Ethiopian ruler Haile Selassie, also considered to be a satire of communist Poland, and The Shadow of the Sun of 2001, the story of his years in Africa. To me personally, Richard Kapuscinski was an eye-opener on African realities, and I was marveled by his profound empathy, his sense of humanity, and his constant effort to get rid of stereotypes and to understand other nations, their history and their culture in Africa and elsewhere with respect and affection. So no wonder that the European Union and the UNDP have partnered under the key AP lectures to talk with the new generations about the development challenge we face. Those present during Kapuscinski's lifetime largely remain and are joined by new ones, such as climate change, energy transition, and stable global partnerships, etc. Since 2009, over 50,000 participants, live and online, have attended over 150 lectures in which we have debated solutions to these challenges. The EU remains a stable and reliable partner of Africa and of Nigeria in particular, keeping its commitments and staying its course to support the continent on its path towards the green, digital, and inclusive transition through our Global Gateway strategy. And at the center of this partnership is youth. All our programs and projects in Nigeria address youth from various angles: economic, political, gender, or climate empowerment, to name a few. Much has been said about youth idleness, apathy, criminality, or radicalization, but if some of it can sometimes be true, it is only a result of the lack of opportunities to learn, to grow, to work, to contribute to the society. So investing in youth is investing into a better future for all. Referring to the topic of today's lecture, harnessing the potential of youth in African economic development, let me say that youth is an asset, not a liability. And young people cannot be only objects of projects. They must be subjects and actors, driving not only their own future, but also our efforts to support them. Our Youth Sounding Board acts as a standing advisory body to the EU delegation in Nigeria to better integrate the Nigerian youth perspectives in all we do here. Our EU Sustainable Economic Development programs in Nigeria take that perspective. In climate smart agriculture, we've partnered with Germany, working with young men and women to support the development of resilient agriculture value chains. In this work, we have met many young people innovating and organizing themselves around improved food production and processing, building business for themselves and employment for others. We're working with the EU financiers on boosting investment to such young enterprises, and with France, we are preparing support to Agri-TVET. In renewable energy, climate action, and circular economy, we have already supported many young new renewable energy developers through direct financing and sub-technical hand-holding to help them grow, bridge the electrification gap, and bring about a cleaner environment. We are also supporting, in partnership with France, the technical education in this nation market to help others find business and employment opportunities. We provide a visibility platform for many young, impressive Nigerian waste-to-wealth innovators. In digitalization, innovation, and youth employability, we are partnering with Germany to boost digital innovation in the private sector. Our Digital Transformation Center is based here in Lagos, working hand in hand with Unilag and NITHub, as well as many innovation hubs, businesses, and individuals across Nigeria. ICT skills are in high demand here, as we have also witnessed under our Nigeria Jubilee Fellows program implemented by UNDP. This initiative addresses a very specific problem of bridging the employability gap between the university education and the labor market. And it does so by providing fully funded annual internships in businesses in all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. But youth employment starts early with access to good education for girls in particular and boys, and with gender equity that allows both men and women to equally contribute to the country's social and economic development. And this is also a core priority of a partnership with Nigeria. There would be much more to say on this topic, but I don't want to delay further the intervention of Madame Lara Rabiu, and so I will stop here, wishing you an insightful Kapuscinski Lecture with her. Thank you very much.
So if there is a desire, there is a change that you want to make, whether in your class, in your community, or you have a particular urge to women, children, equality, whatever it is, you can make that change here. And like we're talking about the next generation, this is the time to have the conversations with people around you. So as much as you're listening to every single person that will come here, and I believe that you have questions to ask, also meet someone. The next person probably has that same desire, and who knows, you might be the next Kapuscinski. So I just wanted to put that out there. Right now, I will be welcoming Miss Lara Rabiu for her lecture. A round of applause for her, please.
Oh, it's a big hall. I didn't see how big it was. Thanks. So I'm excited to be here. I've just come back from Abuja talking about a similar conversation, but from a different angle. There's a bunch of sovereign funds from different countries trying to see how we can fund the development of Africa. As you all know, the international funding is drying up, and we were in a room that was hosted by the Nigerian Sovereign Fund and other sovereign funds across Africa, China, and the Arab nations, to see what the next phase of growth, how we're going to fund the next phase of growth. This is the other side of the coin. Who is going to help develop Africa, even if you have the capital to develop Africa? And so, given all of the intellectual capacity in this room today, I mean, I'm amazed. I'm an economics by major, and so we have Professor of Economics. I'm always happy to be in their company and to debate development, specifically political economic development of the nation. I've been given 45 minutes to talk to you today, and for me, I wish I could have been a teacher or a professor for a little bit, because I like interaction. So I will talk, I will give the lecture, but I hope we can have a discourse and a little bit of debate towards the end of this. I'm not going to be very good at names, but I think the professor that spoke before me talked about youth, the power of youth, the size of youth in Africa. So I'm not going to repeat too much of that. Specifically, Africa has the youngest population in the world. We all know that. And by 2030, which is just around the corner, 5 years from now, 42% of the world population or global youth will be Africans, right? We can either use that to our advantage or we will be left out. The good news today is that the world is giving everybody the same math equation. And I will say that because AI, everybody is at ground zero with AI. What can we use it for, right? We were pretty much left out in the Industrial Revolution, right? We still need industrialization. Africa is not industrialized. The beauty of it is that now we have AI, now we have robotics. Perhaps our own industrialization could look different. It could be a shorter time period. It will be a shorter time period, but it needs focus, right? And so as you guys go on with this fancy AI, robotics, green economy, you can name it all the fancy names. We have to eat. We need where we are going to sleep. We need food. We have to eat. We need where we're going to sleep, right? We need security, some form of security every day of our life. We need what to wear, how to clothe ourselves, how to clean our houses, just the basic stuff. Like if we can get the basic stuff done, we'll be in a better place. And I always tell people, I grew up in Nigeria and then went to the US. I would say the US is not any better. What they're good at is branding basic necessities. Once you remove that basic necessity, everybody will be on the streets. And that's what's happening in the US today. We're not different from them, they're not different from us. It's not the color of our skin that makes us different. It's that security, that basic security that makes them different from us. And I always say every American citizen, most American citizens, 99% of American citizens are one paycheck away from being on the street. We saw it during COVID, right? In California where I grew up, as soon as people didn't have daily livelihood, people started snatching people's bags on the street. It's the same equation everywhere. Economics is the same thing. Politics is the same thing everywhere. So I want us to calm down a bit to just make sure we know that the same solutions could work if we just add our own cultural context and where we are in the period of history we are in. The second thing I would like to just make sure we have understanding of is that we cannot change what we don't understand. Politics is everybody's business. The economy is everybody's business. I always tell people when I went to business school, everybody can come into business school. Engineers, in fact, my class was mainly engineers. Engineers can come to business school. Doctors can come to business school. Social scientists can come to business school. I cannot go the other way around. Like, I cannot be a doctor just by taking the GMAT, but they need to understand the economic context of any nations that they are operating in. They need to understand the policy that would really shape their own businesses, that would really shape their own profession as well. So the first things first, we're not different. The color of our skin doesn't matter. Where we live doesn't matter. The second thing is politics is everybody's business, so we all have to get involved, right? And the third thing is that we have the population demographics to make that happen, right? All right, I think that's a good starting point. We are in UNILAG right now. Does UNILAG have any course, like let's just say first year course that talks about the history of Nigeria or the political economic history of Nigeria? Does everybody have to take that? That is a problem. Right? So when I compare, so we start doing some comparison. The reason why an average American or an average young person in America is so involved and so charged is that every one of them understands the history of America. They've been taught the history of America since they were young. They are so patriotic. They're so proud of their country because they understand how they got to where they are. How we get to where we are, or where we are right now, how we got here, it's very important. So one of our missions at Afara is that that curriculum has to get out there. It has to be developed, it has to be distributed, it has to be engaged with, all right? No matter what you're studying in college, right? I specifically like universities as a form of change because if you go to the history of why universities were created, all the social scientists, professors here should be very proud of themselves. The reason why universities were created is to solve some of our biggest problems in the world, societal business problems in the world. And so social sciences are more important than any other type of science. So for the economics majors out here, that intellectual engine of higher education belongs to you. You need to get into the lab. I know you don't use those words enough. Your lab is human beings. Your lab is the economy, right? So there is lab work for you to do, right? There's policy for you to change, and you have to design it in a lab before you introduce it to the real world. What does that look like, right? So that's another thing I would say. Universities, any computer science, I'm not trying to, demean computer scientists, but I don't think you need to be in university to do engineering, computer science. You can easily go and just start learning the technical skills of those courses. But social science, the ability to change the course of humans from a perspective of their day-to-day lives requires a lot of people sitting at the table, the anthropologist, the economist, the political scientist, before anything can go out there and be tested on humans, on our day-to-day lives, right? And so I hope that makes you have a sense of urgency, and it's a turnaround point for everybody in this room as well. So we talked about the demographics of Africa. We know that currently we're not investing enough in that demographic. And if I could show you what it could look like if we continue on the path that we're on, I have a diagram, but I don't think I'm going to show you today. If we continue on the path that we are on in Nigeria, for example, we're growing at less than 3%. We need to be growing at more than double that, right? Maybe 3 times, 4 times that, for you to actually see a drastic change and a turn in direction, right? We have about 70 million unemployed youth, right? To change that, you need to create 50 million jobs very quickly, because there are more people coming into that as well. Almost every year, we need to start creating 50 million jobs for the next 5-6 years, right? If we're going to get there. So it just shows you that unless we refocus, and the leadership of the country actually says, we want to invest in youth, right? I find it when people are talking about Africa, I find it very, almost like a slap in the face when we have a whole day of conference. We talk about everything, but we don't talk about young people. It's our greatest asset. It should be our greatest worry today, right? But we don't always talk about it. Mandela said, history will judge us by the difference we make in the everyday life of young people. So for people that like us that are not young anymore, I have sleepless nights living up to that quote every day. And that's why Afara Initiative was created. What do we do at Afara Initiative? One, for the last 10 years, we've been building the next generations of leaders of Nigeria quietly. Our goal is that by 2030, there are 5,000 equipped leaders in Nigeria in critical roles across the country. We've started to see the turn of that right now, because at least some of them they've been out of school for the last 7 years, and we gave them 10 years to get to those roles, right? So we've been investing in that. Our next phase will be investing in bringing new, fresh blood into the political scene, right? How do we fund their political ambition, and in an ethical way, right? It has to be much more than, my father was a senator, so I become a senator. My grandfather knows the senator. We need more, so we need to groom more, right? We need to groom more. We need to groom people that have chosen this pathway. They've raised their hand that they want to go through this, and they need the capital, just like businesses need capital, entrepreneurs need capital, right? Politics needs capital. And so our next phase, now that this students are ready. We pick them up. In fact, I think our first class had almost 90% Unilag students. We started from 9 people. This year we're taking 500 people this year. So we're getting closer to that 5,000 number. The second thing we do, right, we call these ones, the first one, we call them, they're quite special. Our goal is to invest very deep in them, so it can't be too many people, so it's 5,000 number. The second one is to address the youth unemployment, and that's a bit of a bigger push for us. In the same time period, our goal is to get to 50,000 of those people and be able to place them in jobs around the world. Today, we're not a net exporter of jobs. That's where we need to get to. But today, we're definitely net importer of jobs, of positions, right? So we would rather hire someone that knows how to do the work to come into Nigeria to do the work. What we need to do is make sure our university graduates are equipped enough. We have enough of them here because we will have the most useful population that are doing the work here. But in addition to that, we can send some of them to other countries that want to develop like ours. Like we can send them to Saudi Arabia, we can send them to the US, we can send them to Korea, we can send them anywhere. So that's a goal, to have that net exporter. So our first mandate is to make sure young people, university graduates, are globally competitive and future fit. What does that mean? Globally competitive means that we're not going to place you in jobs, but when you're standing with your Indian, Turkish, Arab counterparts, they would always pick you. And we did a test this year. There's an institution that's about 80 years old in America called the Mohed Kane Foundation. They've been funding underrepresented and underserved youth in North America and a little bit of Europe for the last 80 years to go to University of North Carolina. And this year they decided that they wanted to expand outside of the US. And they came to us to partner with them in Nigeria. We're not the only organization, but we led the partnership. At the end of it, only our FARA fellows were picked in Nigeria. They went to Turkey, they went to India, and then they came back to us and it's like, where did you find those people? How do you pick those people? We want to do a case study on how you pick those people. I couldn't tell them the answer other than what our goal is. They need to be able to compete with their Indian counterparts, their Turkish counterpart. Without forcing you to pick them, you tell them they are better. So that's the first thing. And testing that and getting that result was one of the greatest joy I had this year. To say we're doing something right, we need to double down and continue to do that. So that's that. So this student will be going to UNC for a year, and they will have to come back to Unilag to finish their education. So this is not jackpot, this is a 1-year program. They will give them $100,000 to do research. So they will give them $100,000. They will be embedded in the student body. But the idea is that they should do research about what they can bring back to Nigeria. And after a year, they come here and they graduate from Unilag. Unilag is still their home institution. Okay, so I guess they're telling me I'm bragging too much, so I'll stop there. So let's continue. But that's what we do. And finally, it's my goal that we take on NYSC. Ooh. Thank you. Yes. So, for me, when I thought about starting Afar, and I will continue in 2 minutes, I came to Nigeria for my NYSC for a year, and that's what drove me to start Afar. And so as we continue on this journey, the question is, once we get to 50,000 in 2030, what happens next? Thank you. What happens next? And for me, the only logical step, given that NYSC, or like the universities, is another place where you have young people as a captive audience, right? And it's the gateway to workforce and leadership. What can we spend that 1 year doing with young people? How can we redirect them in that 1 year, right? So it's another chance. If you've missed those 2 chances, this is another chance for us to ensure that we chip at the 15 million jobs a year. So for me, Afar has committed to contributing 1 million jobs a year, to equip and to place people in 1 million jobs a year in the next 10 years. Yeah, thank you. There are people out there that they want that scale. They want to invest in that scale. They believe in Nigeria, right? But we have to also be able to come to the table with the type of talent, ready talent that the world would need or would be willing to invest in. Okay? The next thing I wanted to talk about was some of the risk that we face. So the working age population in Africa there'll be about 1.1 billion people at working age. That's another stat. So even when we think about 1 million a year, it's still not enough. So who else out there, right, will be doing this? And I think the universities are a good place for us to speed that number of qualified qualified graduates. Okay. The other piece is the power of the next generation. And for me here is about shifting from hustle to innovation. We hustle a lot in Nigeria. I've been here, I've started spending most of my time here since last year. And man, I don't know, man. I have to give props to everybody that lives in Nigeria, because no given day is the same. First of all, I don't know how it's affordable. It's not affordable. The second thing is just the friction cost is very high, and people don't have clarity. Hustle means you don't have clarity. Anything that comes your way is what you go for, right? So today, instead of saying you have a major that you're doing, I'll tell you to declare a mission, right? To what end are you in school? Right? Okay, so you're studying communication, and so what? What are you trying to change? How are you going to apply the skill sets? So one thing is to declare a major, and I know a lot of you are in the major that you don't like. I was giving a talk at PAU last week, and a lady raised her hand and said, I studied computer science, and I don't want to be a computer scientist. I'm in my final year. What do I do? And that's the story of a lot of people, because this is a system that doesn't allow you to change direction quick enough, right? I mean, in the US, I could change my major every year until I'm in my final year. I could take an extra year just to study music, like, because that's what I want to do, right? So without that flexibility, an organization like Afara becomes important because it gives you a chance to study a minor program, right? So you could be studying medicine in Unilag, you have to get those grades, you have to get that diploma, but maybe you're interested in investment banking. And over 2 years, your job is to get equipped by those investment banking skill sets. And so when you graduate, if you don't want to be a doctor, maybe you'll be an investment banker in the medical field, and your industry will be medicals. So it will be easier for you to serve your customers because you understand the lingo, but you want to do something else. So take your mind off of hustle, think innovation, think to what end? What is my mission? What am I trying to use this to change? What am I trying to use it to build, right? And it doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur. There's something called intrapreneur, going into a company that exists already. I'm sure there are a lot of business owners here. Going into a business that exists already and having an entrepreneurship mindset. You go there and you ask the person that owns that business, what is your dream? How do I help you get there? What do you want me to change? How do I have sleepless nights to get this to a reality? How do we share in the success? Because also, I'm not telling you to give your whole life and you don't have, a story to tell. But it's not, entrepreneurship is very hard. I don't even know why people tell you to go that route, right? It's nice when you succeed, but it's brutal when you don't succeed. The beauty about entrepreneurship, why everybody likes it so much, is because it's a catalyst for many more jobs and a catalyst to solutions. But I've seen some of our fellows that have that entrepreneurship spirit take along 50 more fellows to the company that they've dreamed to build, and all of those fellows and all of the rest of them are entrepreneurs, helping that person achieve that vision, but with the same relentless focus, ruthless prioritization, ruthless focus as they would do if it was their business. Right? I would tell you today, if you're focused on the salary that you're going to get right at the end of your fourth year, your first job, you're focused on the wrong thing. Your focus needs to be your journey map. Where do I want to be in the next 5 years? What do I want to build? What solution, what problem, out of all the problems we have in Nigeria, what is your own mission? What is the solution that you're going to provide? If it's solar, deepen your understanding on what solar is going to look like in the next 30 years, not what it is now. Use that foundation that you've been given here to redesign the future of solar energy. Right? For me, if you're not thinking along those lines, university graduates, elites, you guys are elites. You're a very tiny percentage that has been given higher education by the system. That makes you an elite. I don't care if you don't have money right now, you're an elite. an elite member of the society, more is required of you. More is required of you, specifically. Number two, if you have higher education, you have the intellectual capacity to design solution, right? And you don't want that to go to waste. That would be a bad investment on your time as well. I mean, for us that are older, we know youthfulness is not forever, right? So it goes by very fast. So you need a 5-year plan, and after that you need a 10-year plan, right? You need to be able to visualize what you will look like. You need to be able to write. I do mine every 5 years. I'm currently on a sabbatical, and I did one 2 weeks ago. Coming out of the sabbatical 4 months, in the next 4 months, what do I want to have achieved? What does my next 5 years look like? If you're not reflecting and building at the same time, you'll be left behind. And you've just invested 4, 5, 6 years of your life, of your most productive life in here. You better be doing something to make it clear to you on what you're going to be fixing and how you're going to build your own life alongside what you're fixing, right? So that's from shifting from hustle to innovation, specifically. And you have many people that have come through the same system and have gone on to build multi-million-dollar companies, right? You have Life Bank by Temi Giwa. You have that has built a few companies in a short time, right? Africa's future belongs to young people, but we must believe in them enough to invest. So for me, Afara is an investment because I believe in young people. I dream youth, right? Because there's a point at my age right now, there are things you bring to me and I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't. I can't start all over. I can't help you. And then I will put it in my chat groups with all the young, innovative people. I'm like, does anybody want to try and solve this problem, right? And that quote was by Amina Mohammed, UN Deputy Secretary General. She had that role for several years, and she was an advocate of youth. Another person that's an advocate of youth, and I'm sure his work will continue, is Adesina, who for 10 years was managing the Africa Development Bank and is now retired, right? What is he going to do next? I know he has a flair for agriculture, but you also have a love for young people. So for us, today, our educational system is not good, but the beauty of it is that we have technology. We even have AI. When I left my job to focus on Afara full-time, I'm an investor by trade, so I deploy capital to business. I buy businesses and sell businesses, to make it short, right? So when I left my job to focus on Afara full-time, 18 months ago, I wasn't using AI for my job. Today, I'm helping the Sovereign Fund of Nigeria with a project with another company that is 150 years old, UAC, and I can't do anything without AI. Like, even if, like, I write a whole thesis and drop it in ChatGPT and I say, does my train of thought make sense? What would you add? Even as little as that. Or I'll type an email and before I'm like, who cares if there's a comma there? But it's like, now you have the tool, right? So I'm like, I'll just put the word grammar and it will tell me where it can change the grammar for me, right? However, I'll tell the young people, this is for the old people, by the way, this is not for you. You brought us the technology, but we can use it better because we have the foundation. There are times that I've had maybe an hour argument with ChatGPT. But if I don't know what I'm doing, I cannot have that argument. I'm like, dude, that's not the document I gave you. That's not what I told you to do. Why are you giving me this answer? And it takes like 3 times for ChatGPT to apologize and say, yeah, I lost the document. And I'm like, how far into this did you lose the document? And he's like, oh, okay, maybe just like 5 minutes ago. So you know everything he gave you 5 minutes ago, I don't know where he got it from. So there's a little bit of work you still have to do to use ChatGPT. So I just think of innovation, think about it. It's going to get better, of course, but think about it as a companion, not relegate your duties and rights and, learning 100% to it. I've been on panels where I'm like, come on. Yeah, you can use ChatGPT because you can't read out of ChatGPT. So I will tell you, ChatGPT is your companion, it's not going to take your brain away, right? At some point, it's going to hit a roadblock, meaning if you keep feeding in what he fed you, no new information will come up. So humans still have to create the new information. And that's why I'm telling you, declare a mission. You have the baseline knowledge. ChatGPT will scan the universe for you to give you a better education on the topic that you're trying to solve. But ultimately, who solves the problem is you. Who has the local context? You. Who can see the road, the pothole? Who will go there and measure it? Maybe a robot will measure it now, right? But you have to take the robot's measurement, the ChatGPT's base knowledge, your thinking from all the classes you've done, put it together and say, okay, these are the steps. And now, instead of it taking us 15 years to do the roads in Nigeria, we can do it in 2 years. That's what I want to hear. That's what the tools are for. Help us reduce the timeline to development. Can you do it? I'm not getting some excitement in this room. I can't do it. I'm too old. I can give you advice for free, but I'm not going to learn ChatGPT to the extent that you're going to learn ChatGPT and all the other tools out there. Okay? The next point is about youth as builders of economic future. And I think we've talked about some of that, some of the case studies. There's so many people working to chip away at this, but ultimately, I think we need systemic change, right? And I would take a stab at giving you some of the countries that have actually taken that approach. But when we think about what is missing is that systemic change. Young people don't just need motivation. I don't want to come here and motivate you. You hear that at least minimum 6 times a year. If you're on this campus, motivational speaker. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm a doer, right? When I came here, I was more than 10 years young, right? My first thing is like, why is this like this? I did the NYSC, but I'm like, this could be like such an opportunity. Like, you get to get everyone to work on problems that are important to the government and the development of this nation for a year, and we don't get anything out of it. In fact, I would tell you, a month ago, I was on this group. There's somebody called Wendy Cobb. She's mentioned in like books like Good to Great and the likes. And last year, I met her for the first time at United Nations General Assembly, and she put a team of 20 together. And the last meeting we had 2 months ago, there's a gentleman that works in the, gets grants from the government and works on something. And when I was giving a talk to 20 of them about Nigeria and about Farah's work, and I got to NYSC, and he's like, oh, our model is modeled after NYSC. And they did that in the 80s or 90s, early 90s. They took that model and they ran with it. And it looks very different from what we that developed the model have done with it. And he asked me a question. He says, do your leaders reference NYSC at all? I couldn't remember our president, Tinubu, mentioning NYSC in the last 18 months, maybe 24 months, I don't know. Nothing, right? And that gave me it kind of stimulated some urgency. I've always known NYSC camp and 1 year to be a catalyst for what we are looking for in young people, but just my head was swelling, but at the same time I was ashamed, both of them at the same time. So what do we do with this, right? Imagine if we took people for 1 year, make sure they're ready for work, and actually place them on where they're qualified. They told me to go teach English. I don't understand English, to be honest, in some school, and I get there are no students, right? But I wish they sent me to develop some economic models for the government. I'd just finished my MBA, right? Like I wasn't an undergrad. I'm a fully fledged professional, right? And they could have deployed me better. I would have stayed there. I would have earned my $100 a month or less now. I think it's still at 19. They changed it at my own time to 19, and I think it's still at 19. And obviously the exchange rate is very different. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And there are things that we should be proud about. So there are different case studies of people that have done this in the world. The question is, what does Nigeria want to do? So we can use Rwanda as an example. That drove with ICT. 70% of their population is under 35 as well, but most of them are in key ministerial position. Forget of what you think about President Kagame. Let's forget that for a minute. But in terms of the structures that he has put in place, I don't want to talk about what power he has and what power he doesn't have, but the fact that he literally was pro-youth, and he put them in positions of power, not by who they know, but because they were qualified. I know friends that he brought in from MIT for Harvard to say, come and lead A, come and lead B, right? And there are people locally as well that he put in positions and says, come and lead A, come and lead B at 30, in their 30s. Because that's what you have, right? You have more young people than old people, so they should be young, right? And he's not too young. Right? Obama was president at what age? Clinton was president at what age? Before they were president, they were something before they became president, right? They were already senators and I don't know what else they were, but you get the point, right? So you're not too young to lead now. You have to get engaged right now, right? We see India. India used the BPO model. Business outsourcing model, meaning they train all their people very well, and they tell you, bring the jobs, we'll do it for a fraction of the price, right? Just sit in your cushy San Francisco, right? And we do it in a fraction of the time, right? And that's how they developed their country in a short period, right? They rode that IT boom and created over 4.4 million jobs and $200 billion in export of talent, right? So then you have Vietnam. They drove by manufacturing growth, right? Median age is 32, literacy age is 95. Government created youth unemployment program that aligned with industry like manufacturing. And that's how they were able to grow. They do electronics, they do textiles, solar panel. All our solar panel, we're importing it in, right? So we're losing a lot of value. You know, a lot of people don't even understand. Before the Dangote refinery, something that you produce so well, you send it back out. Then somebody sells you. Imagine somebody coming to your house to stay, and then they leave and come back and say you owe them rent. That's something, right? And I guess I've done a lot of advocacy this year, which is not usually me, but if last month I was in LA at the Milken Institute conference, and they put all of us in a room, right? I hope this is not being recorded. There were about maybe 25 of us from across Africa, and I won't mention their names, but there were 2 banking executives from Nigeria there, and then EcoBank, so one of EcoBank founder, I won't tell you who, but to our faces, they're just 3 Caucasian American. I'm trying to use, I don't want to be canceled, guys, but Caucasian American women that literally looked at us in our faces and said, the only thing the US needs from Africa is minerals. And we didn't have a response because we don't have one. It would have been good. Everybody just calm down. We had been talking, you know how Nigerians talk and you're passionate and the girl was just like, what are we talking about here? The only thing we're interested in is minerals. That's all you can give to us right now. You can't give us anything else. That's a shame. And that's with us in the room. Imagine what they're saying without us in the room. Nah, guys. We need to change something. And I know it's hard. I'm not telling you it's easy. Like I said, I'm not coming here to motivate you. It's hard. Everything is hard. If you've read the book, The Hard Things About Hard Things, is that it's hard. If it was not hard, everybody should be in university. If it was not hard, everybody should be doing what you're doing. If it was not hard to make money, everybody should be Mark Zuckerberg. If it was not hard to be president, everybody should be Bola Tinubu, right? It's hard. It doesn't matter how they got there. And that's why I didn't want to talk about President Kagame. That's a topic for a different day. They've done hard things. It's uncomfortable, but I tell you to seek discomfort. That's the only way to grow. That's the only way to get to the destination. Sitting here in your comfortable spot, looking for a cushy job, it's not going to make you stand out. Right? You will not stand out. You'll be one of many. And if you want to be one of many, that's fine. That's fine. But if you want to be one of, then there's a different track for you. And for us at Afara, that's the bridge track. If you want to be one of few, that's the pathway track. But if you want to be one of many, we don't have a space for you. You have to go somewhere else because you don't even get into any of the programs anyways. Right? So I urge you today to choose to be one of few or one of, those are the only two choices. And I hope most of you are in the one of category. We look at South Korea. They focused on education and nation building. We have a lot of people would use Singapore, and everybody would be like, oh, but it's a small country. Okay, let's use Lagos State. Why was I late this morning? Thank God it started later. It was raining, and literally 15 minutes of rain. I had to change what I was wearing because I had to change my car. And then there was flood already. Right? And so, what are we going to build when we don't have basic infrastructure? Where do we even start from? We're talking about technology. Technology to what extent? When you don't have strong Wi-Fi, data centers, right? You need the foundation. Imagine if I built $200 million worth of data center and then flood came and washed it off. What will I tell my investors? It's as good as those people that will say, snake ate the money. Right? Because you can't explain it to anyone. How do you explain to people that they only use logic? That the money they gave you one Thursday morning, as we were driving, you could see the water just rise and sweep off all the electronics that we've bought, and we don't have any data anymore. So infrastructure, don't let us get fancy. And when we get fancy, use it first. Your generation cannot use it first for the problems we have. And the problems we have is that unless we feed ourselves, things will be expensive. Simple. If everything, somebody was saying how we import fish. Who knows that we import fish? What kind of fish do we import? All the fancy things. Panla. They even gave it a Nigerian, well, maybe it's not even a Nigerian name. Who knows? Maybe it's maybe it's not a Nigerian name, but it's bizarre. I'm laughing, but it's mind-blowing. I lived in South Africa before I moved to Nigeria, and after COVID, South Africa was one of the only countries in the world that had, for them it was high inflation, but for everybody else that was not high inflation. The inflation was at 7%. What? Why? Because they can feed themselves. They might not buy luxury things for a few years, but they have food, they have electricity, they have water. Food is cheap. When I moved to South Africa 10 years ago, there was a shop next to my house that I used to go to, and within 2 years, of course I don't know when they started, but within 2 years, that section that used to have the British cookies and stuff like that, I just saw it emptied out slowly, and there was a version of McVitie's that was South African, a version of, something else that was South African. 2 years. So that's a country with a mission, right? South Africa has not grown for the last 15 years, but they're still able to maintain inflation that low in a case where the world had a crisis. They have healthcare. In fact, I must say their healthcare for me, they might not have as much money, but it's better than the US healthcare system. That's my perspective. Now, everything is private, but US is also not really public health, right? So that is the kind of impact you can make when you solve the basic problems. And history would remember you. Think about it. History will remember you. We remember Ken Saro-Wiwa. We remember the people that fought for this country in different ways, right? Economically, we remember Fela culturally, right? And I'm not saying everybody should go and stand in line and put their lives in danger. It's by what you work on. If it's not going to move the needle, you shouldn't have taken somebody's spot in this university. You're sitting on somebody's spot that could have used that opportunity for something bigger than them. If you're still thinking of self and you're in university, you've wasted 4 years of your life. Period. So even if you're about to graduate, I'll tell you to rethink everything. By the time I meet you or run into you somewhere in the world, I hope you would be able to articulate your mission, your progress to that mission, and what you're looking forward to in the next 5 years from the time we spoke today. So what does vision for, let's just say 2040, what Nigeria could be if this generation leads? We need you guys. When today's students are in their 30s, Nigeria could be, just imagine, the top 10 global economy in the world by purchasing power. What does that mean for you? Imagine all these things that you're solving means that our purchasing power or our GDP per capita is in the top 10. What does that mean for future generation? What would their salary be? NYS is definitely not going to be, what did I say it was now? 19,000. NYSC will be paying you $50,000. That's an internship paying you $50,000. That's what you're building for, right? Africa will have Africa and Nigeria, because Nigeria is the biggest giant of Africa, sleeping giant, but biggest giant of Africa. The largest workforce, a hub for green industrialization, a net job creator, and governance is data-driven, inclusive, and youth-informed. So it's everything we've talked about. Data-driven, governance, everybody's involved. A society where youth are informed, youth are involved, is inclusive, is not only for a selected few. We'll be exporting jobs, but we would have used our own talent to create our own economy. We would be exporting a lot more than oil, so green industrialization, and then the largest workforce in the world and the top 10 global economies. So just imagine that. So as youth, what would be your role in this? You'll be policy shapers, job creators, nation builders, and global competitors, winning not because of pity, but because you're excellent. Nation builders, investing in infrastructure, digital ID, clean energy, health, agriculture. Job creators, scaling ventures, employing hundreds of people and not just hustling. Policy shapers, running for office, leading ministries, rewriting outdated systems. What would we need for us to get there? The first one is foundational education, the 21st century skills in addition to your major. Capital. If you don't like talking about money, I'm not saying you should be obsessed with money, but if you don't like talking about money, you're in trouble. Because there's nothing, it doesn't matter how small it is, money, capital unlocks. Capital unlocks, right? And then policy voice, mentorship, right? Representation in decision making and institutional support. What are the areas we should be looking at in terms of sectors? Light manufacturing, we have to feed ourselves. I'll keep repeating that. Unless you do that, we're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter how fancy. You can go to the moon, but you'll be back with us, and we still would not be able to feed ourselves, and your family and community will still not have food, and they would not be lifted out of poverty. Agro-processing, clean energy, health, biotech, digital economy, creative industries, logistics, trade, right? It still costs us more to move something from Abuja to Lagos than from China to Lagos. That's a problem. So there's a lot of things. You can pick one of these theses and dedicate a significant portion of your most productive life, which is the age of 21 to about 45, to building a solution for this. So, for Nigeria, there are two possibilities. We either stay where we are if we don't do anything and continue to grow at below 3% with 50% plus youth unemployment, marginalized, donor-dependent, unrest, migration, 17 plus million unemployed youth, weak institution, reliant on export. Or we can start growing at 6 to 7%, creating 10 to 50 million new jobs every year, become the regional powerhouse and talent exporter, lower crime and increase civic participation, have 70 million skilled youth, repurpose those youth for productive national assets, and have a youth-driven governance system, and a thriving economy that focuses on all of those industry that I've mentioned. Yeah, so for me, that's what I came to talk about today. How can I help? I think I've already started making a mark by what I do at Afara or what we do at Afara, but I'm also looking to do more to speed up the process. I'll pause here and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lara, for that lecture. I'm pretty sure it was very insightful, wasn't that? Yes. So right now we'll be having a question and answer section. I believe we have questions, maybe something that we want to start off because it's something she spoke heavily about. So if you have any question, please signify, and Usher will come to you with a mic. Thank you. There's someone behind. Oh, okay. We'll get back to you. Okay, there's someone behind, yeah. So you say your name and your question.
Do I need to?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel, a final year student of the Department of Political Science. And I believe the question I have to ask is probably a hard one, but it's the reality we face in this country. So I want to ask you, what can you say to people who can't actually focus on your journey map because because of the fact that we are surviving in a country that is actually out for us? I won't lie. I was watching a video yesterday, and it might seem like just basic content, but it spoke to the reality of youth, and not just youth, everybody in our country today. We're in a country that doesn't allow for growth. We're in a country that only allows for basic survival. And everything you have said here, they are very important. They are very, they are key to our growth. But the environment would not allow for that. So what can you actually say to people like us today? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, again, I cannot dismiss the reality and what you go through every day. But I can also think through several generations that came before us. In any country you pick, like, countries that went through war and rebuilt themselves, communities that were exiled and went to rebuild somewhere else. You need to, this is my perspective, you need to collaborate a little bit more on what this generation wants to be known for. It just requires, it doesn't have to be political, it could just be economical as well. It requires focus, like to say, where do we want to make an impact? Because we keep pointing at government, but I think there's a mindset issue in Nigeria as well, and this cuts across government, individuals, businesses. There are few of this mindset that is holding all of us back. One of them is short-termism, meaning I want it now. I can't think of building and getting more. I can only think about now, right? And you look at all of the properties that are going up, right? That used to be single-family residence in a place where we do not have, let's even take the most elite part of Lagos, Ikoyi. Let's think about it. Those, like if you go on Bodilon, where our president lives, or used to live, right? All of those used to be single-family residents, and we already have an infrastructure problem. Now we are building hundreds of apartments on each of those lands with no planned infrastructure, right? As much as there's a blueprint for Lagos, nobody has said, how are you going to serve 120 people? So that's short-termism, right? And it's the same reason why I said, if you look at just how much you're going to get at your first job, you're looking at life wrong. So my first thing is collaboration, peer collaboration with the people around you right now to say, where are we going to make a dent, right? University, no matter how poor you are, rich you are, everybody's on a plain level field, right? People want to work with you, right? There's a social economic mix-up. People will come from different perspectives. Somebody will bring money, somebody will bring ideas, somebody will bring, kind of put together the Fantastic Five for solar or energy independence, the Fantastic Five for food security, and build from that. You're still in a safe space, no matter how hard you think it is right now. When you start working, when there's responsibility and expectations, that's harder than where you are right now. So where you are right now, I would say, is about collaboration, number one, and taking your mind off of that short-termism perspective. Take your mind off of also doing a job and thinking about the work. What is your life work, right? What are you solving? As long as you're solving a problem, right? Or as long as you're the best at what you do, I don't think you should think about Nigeria as the only option for you, short term, sometimes longer term. We would always all come home, but sometimes it's not the best place to start, right? It's not the best place to start. So when I'm talking about community as well, I'm thinking we have internet right now, right? Think about community outside of Nigeria, right? How do you sit here and dream with somebody that is sitting in Norway in your thinking about what the future looks like? I think it's a shame, and unless there's someone interested in young people, unfortunately, there's no way we can erase all of this all at once. So it's almost like a fight for survival, but a sustainable survival and the future where you're sitting in a decision-making seat and you can make a different choice. Because to be honest, again, don't record me. For friends that I feel this administration has been good in bringing young people in, but I'm a bit disappointed in what we've seen so far in terms of focus on education, youth, and what we're going to do on them. I mean, there's a lot of talk about it, but I've not seen that implementation that allows us to say, because we need leadership to say, over the next 30 years, maybe that's even long, over the next 10 years, youth is our focus. These are the industries. Nigeria needs to pick 2 industries where they think they can compete, and that's what we should drive our universities, our schools to provide talent for, right? But that's a national strategy. So unless we do that, unfortunately, we will have to have micro solutions, but I hope your micro solution is not just you, but it's a bit bigger than you, so that if you fall, you have a lot of people to pick you up. So for us at Afara, we let our fellows fall so that they know that there's somebody that is going to hold them up so they can fail forward, right? You need to fail forward. You need an environment that allows you to fail forward. One such environment is where you are now. The second one is, organizations, the fellowships and organizations that allow you to test and get out there. So that's what I would say. Unfortunately, there's no erasure. There's no way to erase what you're feeling, and there's no quick solution to that.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for her, please. So because we're a little tight on time, we'll be taking only 2 more questions. So if you have a question, do signify. So that's one. Who's the second person? There's one over there. Okay, we're going to take all 3 together. Is that fine? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mrs. Rabiu. My name is Akinyemi Akinfe, a visual impaired student of History and Strategic Studies, 300 level. So as a student of history, I realized that Africans, need a lot of reformation when it comes to the educational system and also our knowledge. When I mean knowledge, name it, our technology, company, all sectors in the economy, basically. And then I came up with an initiative called Affex Hub, that's Africans Education and Knowledge Solutions Hub, where we would have, think tanks, innovators come around, no matter the sector, come around, and we're going to deliberate on how we can, build these particular countries, not just Nigeria, but Africa at large, where we're having a value chain, a big, value chain. Everybody, if you need a technology expert, you would see them there. But my issue now is, how do I go about it? Because I wouldn't want to make any mistake, and I would so much, because I'm saying all these things because the Afara initiative is so big, and my goals, are aligned with what you do, Ma. So I don't know if there's a way that I can more or less, or maybe you, mentor me on how to go about these things, guide me so that these things can be implemented appropriately. And I just want to let this out that I also applied for the Bridge program. I'm currently on the second stage, expecting the interview session. Thank you.
So I just want to point out, thank you for the question. I just wanted to point out that if the mic is given to you, please 2 minutes, because she also still has to answer these questions. So there's someone here, and then there's one more person there. So please, 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Oyebote Shima, a final year student of political science and also part of the LDP course. And honestly, your program enlightened a lot of youth, and I'm also one of the beneficiaries of that. I have a question, and you said in order to change your major to a mission, in order for your mission, you have to change your system. Now, we are not trying to be part of the PT party or PT me or this and that. What kind of centers are offering grants to sponsor your dreams? Where you just go to, there is this shack program where you go to pitch your business ideas. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. For that, what type of programs do we have here in Nigeria that you can give them your write-up and they'll support your dreams? We have all listened to this. We all have dreams, and it's not just about us, it's about everybody. So if you're trying to solve the case of baby logistics in a particular LG, who are you supposed to pitch your idea to?
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Ma. Firstly, I would like to say thank you. Your lecture really did a lot for me, and it reminded me of my goals, which I said before I even entered university. So my name is Ejiro, and I'm an economics year 1 student, and I just need advice because I'm very conflicted right now, and I actually have a lot in mind, but I don't know how to go about it. So my question is, what would you advise, or what is your say, or how would you give advice to someone who is just starting as an academic student, trying to balance her academics and then also going into other parts of activities and going into other organizations in order to do what she's supposed to do? So what advice would you give to me? Because it's very conflicting. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we have one final question that someone sent, and it's actually a sheet. So it's as regards being a business owner. She's into fashion. She's in 200 level, and she wants to know, because you spoke about how you can have impact in different sectors in the world. So our exact question is, I am a 200 level student from the Department of Political Science. My question is, I'm a fashion designer and I really want to invest and elaborate my fashion business, but I do not want to dump the fact that I am a political scientist. How do I intersect fashion with politics, and how can fashion contribute to political issues?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you
Sorry,
very much, Ma'am.
that is the final question. Yeah. We actually cannot take any more question again, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Afolami Daniel, a final year student of History and International Studies, Lagos State University. I want to ask, because you said something about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. So, as you can see in Nigeria today, there are a lot of people that kind of channel their energy, like all of their energy into, I want to become an entrepreneur, I want to become an entrepreneur. And in that process, we are neglecting the importance of entrepreneurship in an economy like Nigeria. So I want to ask, how can we channel more or balance the two together to make sure that we have a well-balanced society in the Nigeria that we have today? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I will start with Afolabi's question. And he's right, because Nigeria and Africa in general, we don't have big companies, right? And to really put a dent in unemployment, we have to build bigger companies, like the Fortune 500. We need companies that are big by revenue and size, that can absorb young people into their company. Working for someone doesn't always translate to you just having a job. There are people that are going to look at that opportunity as work, and there are people that are going to look at it as a job. What I'm telling you is that you look at it as work, right? There are people that have risen from a company that they didn't start and become CEOs of that company, or they get to a level where there's only one CEO, but somebody else poaches them because they're ready into a different company. So don't be narrowly focused when you're thinking about this journey. The journey of entrepreneurship it varies. At Google, I have a friend that we used to work at African Leadership Academy together that went on to work for Google. She used to love craft. She used to love craft, and Google, she was the one that created Google, I forget what they call it, like whatever the deck slides, Google slides. She led that project, right? And then Google, she's now going to start Google in Australia for something else, right? And that journey is it's an entrepreneurial journey, right? It was her job to make that, within a company, to make Google Slide work. And Google Slide is one of the top things that Google sells to us today. Did she build Google from start? No. But did she have a great contribution? Yes. Google Slides would not exist without her, right? So that's how you should think about it, right? As the bigger our companies become, the more opportunities you would have to be an entrepreneur within a safer environment. Like, she didn't have to sell her house to do that, right? Google gave her the financial support. And maybe that goes back to some of the other question that somebody asked, where do you find the money? It gave that financial support for her to be able to live up her dreams without taking all of the entrepreneurial risk. And if she failed, again, there are people like us, there are people like companies that make sure you can fail forward while trying to be innovative and solve critical problems in our society. The question Ejiro asked, this is what I tell people. Let's just assume that you didn't get the opportunity to be part of the Bridge program or Pathway or any program that allows you to refocus while you're in school. And now you're in your final year. What you studied is not what you want to do. And it goes back to the girl that is also doing fashion in the 200 level, is that, one, I tell people to do a map and think about, break down the pieces of the major you're doing, right? The major is a description. Within that major, there are different skill sets you're learning, right? That's how you know whether you're good in math or are you analytical. If you're analytical, right, but you don't want to be a computer science, or you don't want to be an economist, or you don't want to be in finance, the next question you ask yourself, what are some of the professions that are adjacent to that, right? Meaning, these are the skill sets you learn or you become astute to when you are in this major. Analytical skills, what can analytical thinkers do? If you don't want to be a computer scientist, you can be an investment banker, right? There are also professions that are generalist profession. I think I gave an example of somebody that studied medicine but wants to be a consultant or a banker. Those are generalists. They just teach you how to think about business strategy and solve problems, right? Or they teach you the inner makeup, all the different pieces of a company right? And then you can go and have 2 years there before you start your business. I personally think entrepreneurs also need internship. Go and intern for someone that is an entrepreneur. Somebody that built a company from scratch. Do not, okay, don't let me say do not. Only 1% of you, or even less than that, 0.5% of you will be successful if you went straight from university or quit university to be an entrepreneur. Go and do an internship in entrepreneurship. In fact, I think all universities should start having a degree called entrepreneurial degree, like an entrepreneurial degree, so that you have the tools and building blocks so that failure rates reduces. Right now, I'm always afraid to tell a young person to be an entrepreneur in Nigeria. It's a bit too hard. The environment is hard, like even when you have a job, right? So depending on like where your starting point is from a social economic perspective, it's unfair to tell someone, right, that has, struggled their whole life to bet everything without guardrails, right? So I hope I answered several of those questions as well. I think there was the question on, grants. I was recently talking, I don't know if you guys know Newly Juice. It's a business, and she was talking about how she's opening her first branch in the US, and there are all these grants available. I always tell people, the question is, where do you find the information? Resourcefulness. The grants are out there. That's number one. Number two, kind of, when you're thinking about your solution, yes, think about Nigeria, but also think about other markets that can give you that initial financial foundation to solve the problem and to fail and to before you come to Nigeria, right? It doesn't mean you move physically, but like if I know that the diaspora needs remittance, right? I will start from them sending money before I tell somebody in Nigeria to pay for sending money the other direction or receiving money. The chances that somebody in Nigeria can pay to receive money is lower than somebody in the US paying to send the money. So just think about those, but I think you've given me an idea because we always have a database for jobs and opportunities, but one of the things that we've not done is a database for grants for entrepreneurs. So thanks whoever asked that question, because I'm going to go to my team and we'll start building a database for that. So the question is, where do you get the information? You can come to us in a few months and we should start to populate that, where you can apply and get some of that money.
I think the final one that you haven't really touched on is the merging of fashion and politics.
Yes. So it's similar to what I said. Like if you studied political science and you want to go into fashion, what I would tell her, she's still in 200 level, is her internship should be in fashion.
Okay.
That's it. Just, you're going to get the degree, but you don't want to do it. You always have the degree. Go intern with someone that has a fashion house.
Thank you so much, Thank you so much, Miss Lara. That was beautiful for sharing from your wealth of knowledge. We do appreciate it. A moment, we would be awarding you for all of this. I will be calling on Professor Quadri, please, to present the award. A round of applause that she makes her way up to the stage. Thank you. Also, I'll be calling on Professor Ferdinand Otter to join in the picture, as well as the representative of UNDP, Latana Ella Hassan. Also, Jan, please to the stage to join in the picture.
On behalf of International Affairs Student Association, I present to you Ms. Lara Rabiu, for invaluable insights shared at the Kapuscinski Lectures at the University of Lagos, and for your visionary commitment to harnessing the potential of the next generation towards African economic development. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Right? Thank you. Thank you. Hello? Okay. Right now, we'll be taking a quick address from the representative of the UNDP, Latana Ella Hassan. A round of applause for her.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Looks like morning outside, but time has flown. First of all, allow me to extend warm greetings on behalf of the United Nations resident representative, Ms. Elsie Atafo. Unfortunately, could not be here because of engagements. My name is Lantana Al Hassan, and I serve as the head of exploration in UNDP Nigeria's Accelerator Lab. And on behalf of UNDP again, and on behalf of the RR, welcome. We thank Ms. Lara Rabiu for accepting this invitation, for the deep, insightful conversation and the insights that you shared and the responses you gave to the questions asked. We also want to thank the European Commission, our partners, for hosting this event, and of course, University of Lagos, our partner in progress on more than one venture in the youth innovation space. So, the Kapuscinski Lecture series are aimed at engaging students and invited guests on pressing global challenges, developmental challenges, and as we saw today, current challenges, topical ones that touch the heart of development for our nation and even ourselves personally. In UNDP, we believe that Africa's greatest resource are its people, specifically its youth. Over 60% of Africa's population is under 25. In Nigeria, in Lagos, sometimes I feel like I'm living in the same city with about half of them. There's so many young people we're surrounded by. But still, the vibrancy it gives to the nation, the sense of expectation of dreams of possibility, the vibrancy that it gives is something that I think I would not trade for anything else and for any other city that I'd like to live in. So, we have an opportunity with the number of youth that we have, with the rapid changes in technology, with the times that we live in, an opportunity that, if properly harnessed, can transform the continent's future and also change the reality, the current realities and challenges that we face in our country. But this opportunity must be nurtured, invested in, and empowered through deliberate policies. I'm talking to social scientists in this place, and as we've been told today, I mean, society is your lab. So you have that opportunity to nurture and actively try and shape the change that you seek. There are no easy answers. First thing, it is hard, and there are no easy routes to that transformative change. But the one thing you cannot give up is the sense that that change is possible. So your youthful optimism is a gift. And it's something that, in spite of the challenges and the difficulties that come across this path, is a crucial asset for actually overcoming the difficulty on the way. So please hold on to that and let that inspire you. The fact that today we realize you never can say never. Challenges, models, paths that people once thought were impossible to address. Disruption has shown that there can be a system, there can be an industry around disruption. And as young change makers, you're in a powerful position to effect that. So, UNDP also shares that optimism and that belief in what the youth can do on the continent and in the country. And that has been reflected in the programming that we run at continental level and in Nigeria as well. I'll give a few examples of that. We have the Timbuktu Initiative, which is a bold continent-wide effort to transform Africa's innovative landscape by investing in youth-led startups and building a robust ecosystem for entrepreneurship. So someone was asking, I think you were asking about where these opportunities are, and Ms. Rabiu is right. There are actually lots of grants. There are actually concessionary funding schemes for innovators and for people who have ideas, and a lot of them do have age limits. So right now, you're in a really good spot to access those opportunities. Yes, you do have to look. Yes, you must engage online, offline. There are many startups. You are fortunate to be in Lagos as well, which is basically almost startup capital of Nigeria. So if you engage with those communities, and while you're in school, it's a good opportunity to even start and get in on projects that people are working on. There are things you could do with that. So in Nigeria also, Timbuktu is being rolled out through a network of universities. Unilag is one. You have an AI pod, an AI unipod that we're partnering with you on. But we're also doing this in several other states. In addition to that, we're also developing community innovation spaces, which will empower young change makers with tools, mentorship, and infrastructure needed to solve local development challenges. In addition, we have the Timbuktu FinTech Accelerator, which was hosted at our office here in Ikoyi, where we supported high-impact youth-led startups across Africa to scale innovative financial solutions that addressed real-world challenges. And these are cut across different spheres. So you had fintechs that were also solving for health, solving for logistics, and solving for other thematic spaces. In parallel, we also run our AFCFTA program in developing young Nigerian women and strengthening them with skills and tools to participate in the African Continental Free Trade Area. We're also investing in green jobs by energizing production hubs across the country in partnership with the federal government and other MDAs as well. In the digital and creative sectors, we support youth through training, incubation, and access to market initiatives. We recognize that Nigeria's vibrant creative economy is a powerful engine for inclusive growth, and it's one, I would say also, that typically has lower entry barriers, so that's a good opportunity for people that want to get into that entrepreneurial space. Today, I'll say these initiatives are part of a broader vision that we have to ensure that young people are not just beneficiaries of development, but that they actively take a part in shaping it, in shaping the future that they want, in shaping the change that they want to see in their country and in their society. We thank you, Ms. Rabiu, for your you've been a passionate advocate and practitioner in youth empowerment. And listening to you, I could see so many ways in which we could continue to work further, I think, with our FARA initiative, because we have programs that blend with that. Your work exemplifies the kind of leadership and innovation that we need to unlock the full potential of the youth. And that's really just the driver because, as you said, we have a bulge in Africa. So we can say how many million youth now, or billion on the continent, but the numbers are still growing. We have the reverse of the problem in most other parts of the world where you have a shrinking population. And if we don't start to create those systemic transformations today, then we actually have a much bigger problem in 10, 20, 15 years' time. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for paying attention for the questions that came in. And I do hope the organizers can arrange for offline forums so that you can address other questions. But I'd like to say that for any engagement that we have with youth, as UNDP personnel, and even as part of the larger international INGO body, there's always a sense of optimism, hope, and just this encouragement to continue to try harder whenever we're with this particular demographic group. I would say that if you ever feel like there's uncertainty about what it is you want to do next, there's confusion, that's fine. That is really fine. Because you're at the age where it is all right to make mistakes. It's all right to set up on one path but realize that that doesn't work and then to quickly shift. And where there are programs or initiatives that help you do this, take advantage of them. I work for an accelerator lab, which is basically an R&D platform. And one of the things I'm very happy that it lets me do is it helps me say, okay, this didn't work. But because it didn't work, I have a better idea of why it didn't and what I could try next and what should be. So we can do evidence-driven and data-driven even as we fail. And I'd say, think about failure. This is my optimist hat. It's not a step that takes you down, but it's more like a redirection. And that's what it's important for today. You can redirect, but if you keep focused on what the ultimate goal is, and you keep your eyes on the ascendant, then there are actually no setbacks that are permanent. And that's all from us today, but thank you so much for this platform and for this opportunity to engage.